Hey, this is Russell Moore. This is Reading in Exile, where we go around the library pulling off books to talk about. I talked a little bit in one of these episodes about books on writing. And several people have asked me about that since then. And so I wanted to talk about some of my favorites. I don't have all of my favorites here, but I managed to get some of them that I didn't have in front of me because I had them in my other place. Um, One of them that I think is really good, really short, is Neil Gaiman's "Make Good Art." As a matter of fact, it's so short; it's just it's a commencement address, but it's not a cliche slogan making sort of commencement address. It's really good as an encouragement to write or to do whatever it is that you've been gifted to do. But here are some that are really good. Annie Dillard's The Writing Life, not so much in terms of technique or what to do, but encouragement to live a life of creativity and of writing. So if you're one of those people gifted to writing, this will give you sort of motivation. Two of the books on writing itself that have been really helpful to me is Stephen King's On Writing and Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art. I always want to say The Art of War, but he's playing off of that title. And the reason that these are helpful to me, I think all the time about Seth Godin's warning about the Stephen King's pencil rule, which he says Stephen King will go, he'll lecture somewhere, and people always want to ask, what sort of pencil do you use? As though sitting down with Stephen King's pencil is going to make you write like Stephen King. It's not. It doesn't matter what sort of pencil he uses. But these books aren't like that. These books aren't, here's what you do step by step. Now, this Stephen King book there's one anecdote in it I quote all the time because it's hilarious. It has really nothing to do with writing. But he says this, in the early 80s, Maine's legislature enacted a returnable bottle and can law. Instead of going into the trash, my 16-ounce cans of Miller Lite started going into a plastic container in the garage. One Thursday night, I went out there to toss in a few dead soldiers and saw that this container, which had been empty on Monday night, was now almost full. And since I was the only one in the house who drank Miller Lite, oh no, I thought, I'm an alcoholic. It's not funny because of the situation, although he triumphed over he went on to be a recovering alcoholic, but because when I read that, I realized the exact same thing had happened to me, not with Miller Lite, don't form an investigative committee, but with Coke Zero. I looked down and saw a recycling bin filled with Coke Zero cans and realized, wait a minute, we put out the recycling last week, and I'm the only one who drinks it around here, and that's when we cut back on the Coke Zero at our house. But these two books are really helpful because they both, in different ways, talk about what Pressfield calls the resistance that you're going to feel whenever you're creating, whether that's writing lesson plans, writing a book, writing a sermon, writing a Sunday school lesson, whatever it is, you're going to feel this resistance to doing it, and you've got to press through that. So both of these books are talking about showing up and about not sort of waiting for inspiration to hit. That's a temptation for me. I want to have everything, my mind to be just completely inspired before I start. That's not how it works. The inspiration comes, but the inspiration comes by trying to write and failing and trying to write and failing and so forth. So they talk about that, and they also talk about the fear of, there's a kind of perfectionism that leads you not to do anything because you don't want to fail, or you don't want to get criticism or those sorts of things. That's one of the reasons why I started the newsletter that I do every Monday now, is because I have a deadline. By Saturday, I have to have this written. It's not one of those things where I just write when I want to. And that having that deadline sparks the inspiration. It's just that both those books are a lot about that and about showing up. These two books have been really helpful to me. Jason Lanier's 10 Arguments for Deleting Your Social Media Accounts Right Now, and Matthew Crawford's The World Beyond Your Head on Becoming an Individual in an Age of Distraction, because both of them are talking about um, the way that one's attention can be chipped away when you're working. That's one of the reasons why one of the best things for me with writing is getting off of Twitter, especially. Instagram I can use and use really easily because I'm not drawn into it. Twitter is one of those things where even though I don't like read comments and on Twitter, I do on Instagram, but read the comments on Twitter or those sorts of things, it's still just the fact that there's this constant pinging that's taking place erodes down attention. At least for me. If you're one of those people who can stay on Twitter all day long and still be able to think deeply and create, good for you. You're a unicorn, but I'm not. And then this is one, it's kind of a strange looking book and a big book, What's to Do When It's Your Turn and It's Always Your Turn. Seth Godin talking about that principle of failing in order to actually create. Again, that's kind of why I did the newsletter, because I could say to y'all, look, this is this is not a finished product. This is a first draft of what I'm thinking right now. And I'm not sure how I'm going to think about it when I keep thinking about it, but I want you to think along with me as I'm writing. That really came from his influence of saying, ship it out there. So as soon as you come to a place of creativity, he says, find the others, find your tribe. That's what he talks about. So that's really helpful with writing. You can't write to everybody. You have to find the group of people who are going to listen to what you say, regardless of whether they agree with it, but who get what you're saying and who appreciate it. And they're out there. So that book helped me a lot to do that. So those are some books on writing. Let me know what your favorite books on writing are, or creativity in general. And let me know in the comments what books or topics you would like for us to talk about here on Reading in Exile. See you next time.